Welcome back to Established Dominance Fantasy Football. Ding here, and this is the Week 4 recap. We'll break down every game and fantasy implication moving forward. And before we jump in, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Follow us on X at Established Dominance. Send a text to a friend. Spread the word. All right, let's start off by highlighting three big injuries that happened this weekend. Rashee Rice looks like he's got a torn ACL. MRI will probably be soon. We'll probably know on Monday, but it looked pretty bad. Richardson injured his hip, and Flacco came in and made the wide receiver core look legit again, so that's good. And then JT had a high ankle sprain, and Trey Sermon looks like he's going to be a 20-touch kind of guy moving forward until JT comes back. It's definitely worth a huge fab bid on your part, especially if it's going to be a multi-week absence. He could be an RB1. Okay, since we're talking about the Colts, let's talk about the Colts-Pittsburgh game first. Obviously, the big picture here is Richardson gone, Flacco coming in, throwing 2 touchdowns, 168 yards. No mistakes. He looked really good. And what he did do was he peppered Downs and Pittman, who both had huge days. Pittman, 113 yards, no touchdowns. Downs had 82, catching 8 for a touchdown. So gigantic PPR. So Downs owners are pretty happy there. JT had a big game until he had the high ankle sprain. Over 110 yards of total offense and a touchdown. As far as the Steelers are concerned, Fields had a huge day. He was coming from behind the entire time, 312 yards and a touchdown. But the real problem was he was vulturing touchdowns from Najee Harris. He had 10 rushes for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. He definitely fumbled as well. Najee was doing what he could, but he only got 16 touches, 54 yards off 3 receptions, but only 19 on the ground. They had trouble running the ball today, except when they were inside the 5-yard line, and Justin Fields took it himself. Totally pathetic. Trying to make himself look good. He's afraid Russell Wilson is coming back next week, which he probably is. So Fields is trying to keep his job. Freiermuth had a good day, 5 for 57 and a touchdown. After that, there was basically no one except for, of course, the big receiver, Pickens, 7 catches, 113 yards. But he did lose a costly fumble. Next matchup we'll talk about is the Texans versus the Jaguars. In this one, Jags had a chance to win it, and they blew it as only they know how. Honestly, they're all getting fired. I'm just saying it. Trevor Lawrence, 169 yards and 2 touchdowns, so no mistakes. ETN, not a good day, 11 rushes for 50 yards and only 1 catch, so ETN orders got hosed there. Bigsby came in, 7 rushes for 90 yards, so looking really, really good. ETN also had a shoulder injury, but he came back in, so that could have impacted him. Brian Thomas had a big day, 6 for 86 and a touchdown, and Kirk, 7 for 61 and a touchdown. Strange catching 3 for 19. That was about it from the offensive standpoint. On the Texans team, CJ Stroud had a really nice night, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Akers, 13 for 53, not very good. Only didn't even catch a ball, Nico Collins was the big benefactor tonight, 12 catches, 151 yards and a touchdown. Nico is back. Diggs caught 5 for 69, and Ogunbowale, 4 for 47 and a touchdown. That seems like an outlier. I don't really think he's going to have that big of a night moving forward, but a good PPR night for him. Let's talk Cincy versus Carolina, the shootout in Carolina. 34-24, really huge game, lots of passing here. Joe Burrow, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Chase Brown, 2 touchdowns, 80 yards rushing. He looked awesome tonight. Zach Moss only had 51 yards of rushing. Jamar Chase, 3 for 85 and a touchdown. Nice night. Higgins, 6 for 60. Another decent PPR night. Yosevaz, 1 for 29, but kind of got injured a little bit there. That he ended up coming back from it, but didn't look great. In Carolina, though, Andy Dalton, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, roughly the same as Burrow. Hubbard was elite again, 104 yards and a touchdown. DJ, 7 for 83 and a touchdown. Another great game for him, though he did drop a touchdown that looked really bad. And then we talked about it in the waiver wire this week. Do you pick up Mingo or do you pick up Leggett? I told you to pick up Leggett. He went 6 for 66 and a touchdown. Huge day. Mingo only had 3 for 24. So right now, your 2 top catchers are Johnson and Leggett. Those are the guys that Dalton favors. So if Leggett's out there, you need to go get him. All right, let's talk about one of the bigger surprises this week, and that was the Bucs-Eagles. So Mayfield's back. For some odd reason, he took a vacation last week. Now he's got 4 touchdowns again, and he crushes the Eagles. Hurts only has like 1 wide receiver, and I forgot his name, just kidding, Dotson, to throw to. I mean, seriously, knock on your neighbor's door and ask if you can borrow a couple of wide receivers. It's just pathetic. Without Devonta, without AJ, Hurts has to run the ball. He's got to force the ball to Goddard, which he did. He's just not as successful. He had 158 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he tried to do his best. Didn't really make a whole lot of mistakes except for one fumble, 20 yards rushing. It just looked ugly. He was always getting pressured. There wasn't really anywhere to go with the ball. Barkley had a nice night, 84 yards on 10 carries. That's really good, and he caught 2 balls for 32, but no touchdowns for Barkley. So if you're a Barkley owner, that was disappointing. And then Goddard, 7 for 62, no touchdowns, pretty good. The only touchdown went to Pierre Campbell. That's not going to happen very often, so that's kind of a bummer. But other than that, looking across the wide receivers, Dotson caught 2 balls, Ross caught 1. It was basically a peanut butter spread across the entire wide receiver room. Half these guys are past their prime, never had a prime, or can't even spell prime. This looks like a train wreck for the Eagles. Hopefully A.J. Brown, who did travel with the team, comes back next week. Otherwise, Hurts is going to have another rough week. On the flip side, the Bucs, Mayfield, 347 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then he had 1 touchdown rushing. Irving went 10 for 49 and a touchdown. He looked strong. Rashad White, 10 for 49, and then he caught a couple balls, 2 for 35. Irving had 1 catch as well, but Irving getting the touchdown had a better day. Mike Evans, 8 for 94 and a touchdown, looking great again. They made the comment that they were going to try to force him the ball. They did, 14 targets. Godwin had another nice day, 6 for 69, no touchdown, but 9 targets. And then Cade Otton had terrible drops all day, but still caught 6 of 52. So that's a nice PPR day as well. Now, the award for the most shameful game of the day goes to the Jets versus the Broncos. The Jets hosting Denver and just looking pathetic. Aaron Rodgers, 225 yards, no touchdowns, sacked 5 times, didn't fumble, didn't interception. So, no mistakes, but Denver was solid tonight. Allen rushed 8 for 34. Breece Hall, 10 rushes for 4 yards. I told you about this last week. Denver's defense is legit, especially against the run. If your RB1s are going up against Denver, I'm not telling you to sit them, but you need to really lower your expectations. And if you're on the fence about one guy versus the other, play the guy who's not playing Denver. These guys are tough. Mike Williams, 4 for 67. Lazard, 5 for 58. But his touchdown streak comes to an end. Conklin, 4 for 17. Breece Hall only caught 2 balls. Would I worry here? No. Denver's rush defense is elite. But Allen outplayed Hall, and that's not good. And watching the red zone touches, that wasn't good either. So if you're a Hall owner, you need to worry. On the Broncos side, as pathetic as always. Bo Nix, 60 yards passing and a touchdown. That's a joke. Javonte Williams, 77 yards on the ground. Decent night. No touchdowns. Sutton is the one who caught the touchdown. 3 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Targeted 9 times. So he only caught a third of the balls that came his way. Everybody else literally didn't catch the ball. It was awful. For the Jets to lose this game, they have to just be kicking themselves. It was just beyond pathetic. All right, NFC North Division rivalry, Vikings versus the Packers. Vikings go out to a huge lead in the first half and then try to blow the entire game. Really scary if you're a Vikings fan out there, but they ended up winning it in the end. Darnold, looking good, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. I eat crow on this guy every week. He continues to look good. Aaron Jones, 22 rushes, 93 yards, the revenge game going back into Green Bay. He also had 4 catches for 46. No touchdown, but a really solid PPR day. The touchdowns went to Jefferson, who went 6 for 85 and a touchdown. Addison, 3 for 72 and a touchdown. And then Addison also had a rushing touchdown. They were trying to feed him the ball. He only had 5 touches today, but he made the most of them. So Addison is back, and he's looking strong. Jefferson, obviously having his normal day. Naylor disappeared. So if you have Naylor on your bench, if with Addison and Jefferson in the game, he's just not going to get any looks. On the Packers side, Love looked good and terrible. It was Jekyll and Hyde. 4 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. And those definitely lost the game. 389 yards. You had a huge PPR day from Love, but he really is the reason why they lost. Jacobs, 9 rushes for 51 yards. He was definitely not the focus today. He did catch 4 for 27, but no touchdowns for him. Reed was the man, catching 7 for 139 and a touchdown. He is the best receiver on that team. Why they weren't giving him the ball more, that's probably another reason why they lost. Dontavian Wicks targeted 13 times, only caught 5 of those for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, he was wide open both times. Love got him the ball. He got 2 touchdowns. I don't really see that. That's a ceiling for him. I don't see that something to be week to week. Reed is still the man. One of the bigger things was Watson getting hurt. He got his knee folded over on a terrible tackle. Monitor him moving forward, but it looks like it's probably at least a week, if not a multi-week injury. So check the wires tomorrow. And now a bit of good news. In the Bears versus the Rams game, Swift, who'd spent the first 3 weeks on the side of a milk carton, was found. So welcome back, Swift, and he had a huge day. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, 157 yards and a touchdown, no interception, no mistakes there. He did fumble, but he didn't lose it, so a decent day by him. Swift, 16 rushes, 93 yards and a touchdown, and caught 7 balls for 72. Just a gigantic day for him. Obviously, the focus. Johnson rushed 7 for 26 and a touchdown. Didn't catch anything, but he had a solid day. Komet was 3 for 34, and then DJ Moore, 3 for 22 and a touchdown. As far as the skill players go, if it wasn't for Swift, they would have lost this game wholesale. Now, I will also tell you that the reason they lost this game was because Stafford was terrible. All right, 224 yards and an interception. He also had a fumble lost, but that really doesn't tell the story. They were able to get to him, put pressure on him. He made a lot of bad throws. They tried to force it to Kyren Williams, which is always a smart play. Kyren was 19 for 94 and a touchdown, looking awesome like he always is, catching 4 balls for 10, but he just wasn't enough. Tutu Atwell caught 4 for 82. Whittington, 6 for 62. It's a little bit higher than a normal for him. Robinson, only 2 for 37. And then if he had Parkinson as the tight end, he was 4 for 33. No touchdowns except for Kyren. It was a tough day for the Rams. The Bears defense came to play. Next is the Atlanta-New Orleans game. Now, Kamara was his usual dominant self, but then Koo kicked a 58-yard field goal in the last second to win it. Talking about the Atlanta Falcons, Cousins, 238 yards and an interception. Ugly day. Rushing the ball, Algier, 8 for 60. Bijan Robinson, 7 for 28. So I know a lot of people are concerned about that. Algier looked really, really good. Receiving, London, 6 for 64, no TDs. Mooney, 3 for 56, no TDs. McLeod, 6 for 52, no TDs. Bijan caught 4 for 46, which didn't necessarily save his day, but at least it was palatable. Algier, only 2 for 20. Nobody getting any touchdowns across the entire team except for the defensive touchdowns. Atlanta's defense looked really good. Unfortunately, the skill players came away with goose eggs in the touchdown column. Not true for the Saints, though. While Derek Carr only threw for 239 yards and an interception, Kamara rushed for 77 yards and a touchdown. And then Taysom Hill had 2 touchdowns. And if you're a Kamara owner, you were totally upset because they should have been Kamara touchdowns. And Taysom Hill is vulturing them. And then what does he do? He gets hurt and he leaves the game. So he gets like 16, 18 PPR points and then says, see ya, I got an oblique injury on the other side from my rib injury. So did he come back too soon? I don't know. Rashid Shaheed, a couple of rushes for 14 yards, but 11 targets, 8 catches for 83. Lost a huge fumble on a punt, though, and cost them the game, in my opinion, because that was a fumble for 6. Olave was targeted 10 times, 8 catches, 87. Again, no touchdowns. Nobody wanted to score except on the ground, but the Saints definitely had plenty of scoring that way. Monitor Taysom Hill moving forward. He's obviously a beast on the ground, but if he doesn't play, those touchdowns are going to Kamara, so Kamara's an even bigger play. All right, let's talk Niners versus the Patriots. First off, if you have a defense you can play against the Patriots, you need to stream them. Now, the Niners have all their receivers back. New England paid the price. That was kind of the big story there. The Niners, Purdy, 288 for a touchdown and an interception. He didn't look that great. Jordan Mason was the lead again, 24 rushes for 123 and a touchdown. And then he also caught 2 balls for 37. Jennings was the high targeter, caught 3 of those for 88, had 6 targets. Debo came back, 5 targets, 3 catches and 58. Ayuk caught 2 for 48. And then Kittle caught all 4 of his targets for 45 yards and a touchdown. And he looked good. So everyone's back. Kittle may have re-injured himself. We'll have to check that on Monday. Let's see how it goes. Right now, he was looking good. Even Debo looked a little bit gimpy, but he had the separation speed to get open on a huge 53-yard throw. So as they move forward, hopefully they'll get even healthier and San Francisco will continue to roll in the absence of course, CMC, who's probably going to be out for another 2 months. That's my guess. On the Patriots side, there was just so much pass rush. They really couldn't do anything with the ball. Jacoby Brissett, 168 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, sacked 6 times. Stevenson lost a fumble, only had 43 yards on the ground. Not looking good. They just couldn't move the ball. Gibson was the actual high receiver. 3 catches for 67. Polk caught 3 for 30. Stevenson caught 4 for 19. Lost a fumble like we talked about. And then the tight ends got targeted a couple of times. But nobody was really open. The pressure was there. Brissett couldn't get into anyone. Again, stream any defense you can against New England, especially if your defense is at home. Okay, now the game that everyone's talking about, the Commanders versus the Cardinals. What do you say about Daniels? He continues to amaze. Teams have also figured out that if you just double Harrison, Kyler Murray can't really do anything. So moving forward, if they just double Harrison, boom, it's over. As far as the numbers go, Daniels, 233 yards, a touchdown, and interception. It doesn't sound very good. He also had 47 yards and a touchdown on the ground, but he really was moving the offense, making the right reads. He had the one big mistake, but he looks elite. Now, Brian Robinson Jr., 21 rushes for 101 yards and a touchdown. With Eckler out, this is the kind of performance you're going to get from Robinson. So continue to start him and continue to start him even if Eckler comes back. He's the better running back anyway. Now, Zacchaeus caught 6 for 85, no touchdowns. Terry McLaurin had a good night, 10 targets, led the team, 7 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Really nice PPR day. And then Noah Brown had 3 for 26, Ertz 3 for 22. And if you thought Luke McCaffrey was going to be the guy, 1 catch for 17. And then Jeremy McNichols, now this was the bummer. He had 8 rushes for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Here's a guy who barely plays. He came in. He had a great day. He had a couple of big runs, and he was vulturing touchdowns from Robinson. And as a Robinson owner, I was not happy about that. All right, looking at the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 142 yards and a touchdown. Connor was awesome. 18 rushes for 104 yards, averaging 5.8 a carry. That's really good. Although he's a 5-yard per carry kind of guy, which is fantastic. He also got a touchdown. Connor caught 1 ball too. Harrison only had 6 targets, 5 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. He did get the touchdown, but other than that, it wasn't really that big of a day for him, and they were all over him. George had 4 for 38, and then Wilson 3 for 38. All right, let's talk Chiefs-Chargers. Wow, this is a big game. Rashee Rice goes down early in the game, looks like an ACL tear, had to be carted off, just terrible. They're going to have to replace him or find somebody on the squad that can pick up the slack. In the game, what Mahomes did was he threw more to Kelsey. So if you're a Kelsey owner, you were happy to see that. He threw a little bit more to Worthy. Worthy normally gets 3, maybe 2 targets a game when Rice is healthy. He got 4 targets, 3 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown, the only receiving touchdown. And then Noah Gray got 4 catches for 40. And then Watson caught 2 for 27. So right now, it looks like with Rice gone, they're going to pepper the tight ends more, maybe give Watson a couple of looks, and then give Worthy a couple of extra looks, and then try to run the ball as much as they can. Because Hunt, welcome back Kareem Hunt, 14 rushes for 69 yards. He also had 2 catches for 16. No touchdown. Perine is the one who vultured the touchdown from Hunt. But I see going forward, Hunt getting probably about 18 to 20 touches, and he's going to be the lead back right now. On the flip side, the Chargers, Herbert just looks like he's playing through pain. 179 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown went to McConkey, who was targeted 7 times, 5 times for 67 and a touchdown. Now, that's what we expected McConkey to get like from day one. Why it took this long, I have no idea, but they need to keep forcing the ball to that kid. He's good. Dobbins, Rough day, 14 for 32. They definitely loaded up the box to stop the run. Gus was also ineffective. Catching the ball, Palmer had 3 for 36. Dobbins caught 3 for 30. And then Quentin Johnston, the guy who has a touchdown in every game this season, it's over. 5 targets, 1 catch for 9 yards. He took a back seat. They're finally pushing McConkey, which is exactly what they should do. Next, let's talk the Raiders and the Browns. Boy, this got ugly. The Raiders squeaked out a victory, but basically because Watson gave it to them. The Browns did everything they could to lose the game. Watson, 176 for a touchdown and an interception, sacked 3 times. Ford didn't have a great day, 10 rushes for 58. Watson fumbled the ball once, didn't lose it, but it just looked like a sloppy game. Judy was the high targeter, 6 for 72, no touchdowns. Cooper targeted 8 times, caught 4 for 35, but was the reason for a really bad interception deflection, and that cost them the game, in my opinion. The touchdown went to Whiteheart, who caught 3 for 13. You're probably not going to see that again. Ford caught 7 for 27, so that saved his PPR day. Boy, that's averaging less than 4 yards a catch. That's pretty bad. On the flip side, the Raiders, Minshew didn't look that much better. 130 yards, no touchdowns. Zamir White, 17 rushes, 50 yards, and a fumble lost. And I believe they scored a touchdown off of it. And that should have cost them the game. Madison came in, 5 rushes for 60 yards. Madison looked like the better back. Zamir White with his costly fumble. I honestly believe they need to start playing Madison as the starter. We'll see what happens there, but it looked really bad for Zamir White. Receiving, Myers was over-targeted 10 times, only caught 5 for 49. So just a bunch of short dump-off passes, really under 10 yards average. Tucker was the huge winner here, 5 receptions for 41, but he also got a 3-yard rushing touchdown off of a sweep. The rest of the skill players, ineffective today, to include Bowers, who was only targeted 3 times, caught 2 for 19. I know the Raiders won the game, but if you're targeting your best player with Adams out only 3 times, it's going to be tough to win. I'm surprised they won, to be honest. And the final game of the night, the Bills versus the Ravens. Wow, Lamar Jackson having his best night ever against the Bills with a total of 156 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 54 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He did lose a fumble, but this is by far his best game ever against Buffalo. Henry was obviously the big story. 24 rushes for 199 yards and a touchdown. He did fumble once into the end zone. Somebody else got it on their team and scored the touchdown, so he didn't get it. But, I mean, he was elite. Caught 3 balls for 10 yards and another touchdown. Henry just completely destroyed the Bills, which is really why Jackson had a decent night, because Jackson was able to run in a touchdown based on what Henry was doing, and they were moving the ball, and the defense was creating turnovers and just making it hard on Buffalo all night long. Hill was a big receiver tonight. 6 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Likely only caught 1 ball for 26. Andrews, 1 target, and he dropped it. It's over for Andrews. I'm sorry. You could try to trade him, maybe, and try to get some trade bait off of him. But after 4 games, he's outside of the top 20 in tight ends. If you can get some trade value for him, go for it. For the Bills, Allen had a rough night. Sacked 3 times, always on the run, 180 yards, no touchdowns. Cook didn't look any better. 9 rushes for 39, but they got behind so fast, so early in the game, that they had to abandon the run. So if you're a Cook owner, you're hoping, hey, maybe they'll dump it to him on a swing pass or something. Only 1 target, 1 reception for 9 yards for Cook. The big receiver on the night was Shakir. 5 targets, 4 receptions for 62 yards, 1 on a big 52-yarder. He almost got to the end zone. He tried to get there, but he just didn't have what it took. Got stopped on the 3-yard line. Ty Johnson, he had the only touchdown for the night, and that was off of that Shakir catch. And all the Cook owners were crying because they're like, wait, that's not fair. So rough night for Allen and company. I expect them to bounce back next week, but this was the best performance by the Ravens that they could have hoped for in their history against Buffalo. So good on them. All right, that's it. It was a frustrating day in a lot of respects. Next week is the first bye week. All right, there's 4 teams on a bye. Get out in front of it as soon as you can. And even look at week 6. Hopefully you can pick up someone who can bridge the gap for 5 and 6 if there's an issue for you in any one of the categories. We'll talk waivers in another podcast this week, so stay tuned. And before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And finally, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on our latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?